This show is being recorded from the top of Mount Everest. I just have to get this last peg hammered in and... Uh-oh. The peg broke.
No famous lines from any famous films were quoted during the making of this podcast. Inconceivable. Welcome to the undersea world of Jacques Cousteau. Today, the Calypso and its crew...
Wait, what? Well, hold it. You're in the wrong place, Jacques. Security, get this guy out of here. Take his skull cap with him.
What? Jacques Berkwitt.
Eesh. Oh, hello. Who are you?
I'm Bad Brad Berkwitt, your interview for this episode.
Oh, gosh. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Oh, my God. That's right. Nice to meet you, Brad. My brother is nowhere to be found.
Oh, hey, guys. Hey, look, it's Bad Brad Berkwitt. You made it. Hey, who was the French guy with the skull cap?
Yeah, I don't know, but he looked a lot like you, Ray.
Really? Was he wearing this?
A skull cap? Really? All right, let's get on with it. Hello and welcome to Pull Yourself to Pieces, the podcast. Today we have a special guest in the studio with us. He's a best-selling author, a journalist, a 20-year veteran. Everybody, please welcome Bad Brad Berkwitt.
Hello, Brad.
But how are you?
All right, we're good.
We're great. So first, let me say hello, fellow New Yorker. Yes, New Rochelle, New York. That's almost what we used to call upstate from Long Island.
I was going to go there. Yes, home of the Dick Van Dyke Show.
That's right, New Rochelle. Right, the other famous New Rochelle place.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, Dick Van Dyke was supposedly that's where they lived in New Rochelle. Yeah,
New Rochelle.
I never realized that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And I've heard that for years. Upstate New York, it's only 20 minutes. I think it's north of the Bronx, but it's close enough to deal with the traffic and I mean, close enough to smell it and far enough to deal with the traffic.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
you got to go up actually pretty far, like Poughkeepsie. I think that's where you talk to somebody from Poughkeepsie, even they will be like, no, that's not upstate yet. It's got to get a little further, right?
How far do you got to go? Albany? Anyway. So
Buffalo.
Yeah, right. So raised in Florida. So what was that like?
Interesting. I was born in 1968, and when my parents separated in 1975, they divorced. I moved to Florida. Yeah, moved there. That was a good thing. Moved to Florida in 1975 and lived on Miami Beach with my dad. In the day of the snowbirds, I'm sure you guys know what snowbirds are.
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, we know,
Which the Miami Beach of my youth is no longer there. It's sadly gone.
Sure.
But I loved it back then. It was great. You had the Italian restaurants, so that covered half of my heritage, and it had the Jewish restaurants, and it covered the other half. So you get the specials, the early bird specials. So it was a great thing.
Right. Absolutely,
So,
smart.
But I loved it.
So you're a Navy man. You were you were in the service, military intelligence.
Correct. I was in the Navy for, as I say, and people always say, really, 20 years and
Wow.
28 days. Don't forget the 28 days.
Exactly.
20 years and 28 days.
My DD 214 says 20 years and 28 days. And the reason that is because people laughing like, come on, man, really? I'm like, no, really. I got credit for all that. I came in September 2nd, 1986 through Fort Hamilton, Brooklyn MEPS, or Brooklyn, Fort Hamilton and Brooklyn. And I retired September 30th, 2006, because your retirement goes to the end of the month. And then October 1, I picked up that first retirement paycheck.
Were you drafted, or did you just go voluntarily?
The draft has been gone since, I think, 1970, maybe 9.
Oh, so you signed up.
Yeah. Yeah, I volunteered. Selective service. Everybody is selective service now.
Well, good for you. So military intelligence.
Worked in military intelligence, yeah, all over the world.
You know what I want to know, like, all kidding aside, like, did you ever go to Area 51?
I was-
I couldn't.
You know, it's funny. I've been asked that question. No, I was never involved in that part of the intelligence, but I wish I could have went to Area 51.
I think that's Air Force, Billy. You're thinking Air Force.
Okay. How about
Ask
this?
ask him if he's ever been to Guam. That's what you want.
Have you ever been
You know
to
what?
the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah, I know, but I've seen many specials on it, especially Leonard Nimoy's old "In Search of" when he went to the Bermuda
yes.
Triangle,
Right.
when
Yes.
they talked about it. But I
Yes.
went to the other G place, and that was Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. I was stationed there in 1995, and believe it or not, it's the only Navy base on communist soil. Now you can't leave the base and go into take a ferry and go into anywhere else in Cuba, but we actually had people from Guantanamo Bay City come in every day and work on the base through a ferry, and we had people that lived on the base that left when Castro took over. I want to say what was it, 59 or thereabouts,
something
and
like that. Yeah.
they lived on the base, the same base that I was on. So I was in Cuba for a while, the real Cuba, not the "You Can't Handle the Truth" movie version with Jack Nicholson, which was bullshit.
Love it.
I'm sorry.
You're right.
It was BS.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Yeah.
You must have been in a lot of places stationed over 20 years, no?
I started out, first tour was in Pensacola, Florida.
Uh-huh.
And then I changed fields. My first 4 years, I did something else, and then I got into intelligence. And first duty station out of school was Sigonella, Sicily. I got there in May of 90, and it wasn't in my contract, but October of 90, Papa Bush decided we were going to war. So I had to engage in country, the Gulf War, working for what was called the Defense Courier Service. And I was not me flying as a pilot, but I was delivering classified material that would go to the front lines all over. I mean, I've been to countries, I can't even tell you all the countries, because most of them, all I saw was the landing strip. So I was there.
Right. Yeah. You didn't get to sightsee very much, did you?
No, not very much. And
No.
I was so heavily armed. They gave me a 38 that I carried in my flight suit. And I used to tell them, they're shooting with like machine guns. What am I supposed to do? Throw this at them? What am I doing with this gun here? It's like I was shooting one time to get mad at me. What the heck?
Yeah. What were they expecting? Hand-to-hand combat with you with that little gun?
And he was carrying classified materials. Oh boy.
Yeah. To
right.
boot. To boot. Yeah. Uncle Sam should have taken better care of you, my friend.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I was young then. I was young. I could run faster.
Yeah. We all could.
So, but
So
yeah,
you-
go ahead.
So you were in Sicily. That's interesting because Billy and I are both half Sicilian. So that's
Okay,
good.
I won't hold it
You
against
might
you.
have run. You might have run into some of our relatives for all we know.
I mean, well, I'll tell you what, your relatives make some great pizza over there because the best food I ever had was in Sicily. I went there a 29 waist and left a 32.
Oh yeah.
See, he left with more than he got there with. That's
Exactly.
Yeah. See, that's the way you're supposed to go. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So let's talk about your boxing career. So you were an amateur boxer between 1980 and 83. What weight class?
I started at 80 pounds, paperweight, as they used to call me.
Oh my God.
And by the time I got done in 83, I was 106 pounds.
Holy mackerel. Is that where you got the nickname Bad?
No, I got the nickname Bad actually as a journalist in the year 2000 from a ring announcer. And his name was I should say, still with us, Henry Discombobulating Jones. Now, discombobulating was Howard Cosell used to say that when he said, he's discombobulated. And they nicknamed Henry that. And so he gave me that nickname. And the reason why I got the nickname was I used to be at ringside, used to dress up really well with a suit, and I interacted with everybody there, which is my personality.
Right.
And I always treated the fighters with a lot of respect because I was a fighter at one time. And as well, when I did my interviews, I never took them out of context. I always asked them questions that weren't normal questions. I always wanted to know about them and always let them be heard in their own words. So he said, you're bad. That's a bad thing. Bad as in good thing that you're doing.
I got it.
and then it stuck. So when I recently did Anthony Scaramucci's
Yes,
radio show,
I saw that.
yeah, Mooch FM, and he asked me about the bad too, and I said, and I got a tattoo on my arm, so when I go on to the next life, you know, I get up to the pearly gates,
Yeah.
they'll be able to identify me with the nickname on my arm and the gloves. And Anthony so eloquently said, Brad, the closest you're getting to heaven is purgatory, and I'll be there with you.
Oh, that's
Which my better half Debbie thought that was hysterical because
Yeah.
I've always said, look, if I go before you, I'll put in a word for you.
Yeah.
And she said, good luck with that.
Good luck. Yeah. Yeah.
So
well,
that's
if
where
any-
the bad
if-
came from.
Yeah. If anybody's gonna have a date with the devil, it's definitely gonna be the Mooch. But I think I think he has redeemed himself.
He has. He
I
really
would
has.
say he's redeemed. Yes, he learned the error of his ways, and he's come to the light.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and we need as much help as we can get.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's where the bad came from.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know because I would hate to think that somebody stuck you with that, and because that could be you wouldn't want to know my nickname growing up. My nickname, my mother used to call me "son of a bitch bastard," and it would just roll right.
I got it. Wait. I got to stop you. Are you kidding me? My grandmother, my Italian Nona, Aurora Campanello, God rest her soul. That's
Yeah.
what she used to call me whenever I wouldn't listen. She said, "You son of a bitch bastard."
Bitch
I
bastard.
said, Grandma, how do you put that all together like that?
Yeah.
It's
It would
they're
roll
really
right
good
off
at
her
that.
tongue.
Yes.
It would
Yeah. And she
roll
didn't
right off
curse.
her tongue.
That was the only thing that she said. She wouldn't say the F word. She wouldn't say
No.
GD, which is the only,
Yeah.
I curse like a sailor, but the one thing I don't say is GD. But she
Yeah.
would say, "You son of a bitch bastard! I told you to come in the house at 8:00."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They learned that. They
And
learned that
usually it's
early
a
on.
summon a
They-
bitch for them.
Yeah.
To summon a bitch.
Son of a bitch.
because it's gonna
Yeah,
have
which was,
that
didn't they
broken
use that a lot in
English.
that movie,
Yeah.
Johnny Dangerously? They used that a lot. One of the
Yes.
characters.
Yes,
in
they
that.
did. They did. Yes,
Yep.
they did.
Yeah, what memories?
So you
All right.
boxed in your youth. Did you do any more boxing later on, or
No, only boxing I did later on was just to work out to get in shape.
gotcha?
Yeah. 83 was it. What happened was, and it was great because I went out on a win. My best fight was my last fight, but I was putting more emphasis on boxing than I was scholastics. And my father, who supported me all the way, said, Bradley, that's it. You're putting too much emphasis on the boxing.
Yeah.
And you got to, pay attention to your scholastics. And he was right. I needed to. But the love for the sport preceded that. It started in 1975 because of my father, and it's still there. I mean, we'll get into the boxing whenever you guys want to talk about it. But
Yeah.
that's how that it ended in '83 because I was putting more emphasis on the boxing than I was school.
Yeah. And so you've been actually a boxing journalist, since 97? 1997?
That's correct. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that a lot of what you had to talk about were the Tyson years, basically, right? Pretty much. Or did you
No.
go back all the way?
No, I went
did
back
you
to the
go all the way
70s.
back-
Yeah, I was 7 in 1975. So, in the 70s, which was the heyday of like the light heavyweight, 70 and 80s.
Yeah.
Or like the light heavyweight, the heyday of the light heavyweight for me. I mean, it was a golden era with just great fighters.
Oh, yeah.
But, Tyson turned pro in '85, so I was that was a year before I joined the Navy. So I
Right.
followed it from '75 on is when I followed. So I could talk pretty in depth from those years on.
Well, I go back a few years before you, and I remember Ali. It seemed like he was fighting at least once a month. ABC's Wide World of Sports, there'd always be an Ali fight, and they stood everybody up in front of this guy. I mean, seriously, Ernie Shavers, Kenny Norton. They put everybody up. The bleeder Jerry Cooney. They stuck everybody up in front of this guy.
Jerry Quarry, man.
And Jerry Quarry, and
Mhm.
he just beat down everybody, and then Leon Spinks shows up, and that's an upset. Nobody expected that one, but that
he
didn't
didn't train.
last
He
long.
didn't train for that fight. I mean, he
No,
fought him
no,
in
and he-
February, and in September they did the rematch. Ali didn't train for that fight. But
Yep.
but going back to some of the names that you just said,
Yeah.
Kenny Norton, God rest his soul, a very good friend of mine,
Yep.
Ernie Shavers too. Kenny was his
Yep.
spoiler because I'll be honest with you, I loved Ali. You know, the first fight he broke Ali's jaw and he
Yep.
won. Second fight was a closer decision. The third fight, which was at Yankee Stadium in 1976, I think Kenny beat him. I think Kenny got robbed in that third fight.
That's possible. That's very possible.
Interesting.
And he was past
What
his
did you-
prime by then. Ali was.
Yeah.
You know, Ali should have retired after the Thriller in Manila in '75 after that war
Oh,
with Joe
yep.
Frazier.
What was your first thought when you saw George Foreman 1.0? Did you think at that point this is the end of Muhammad? Because good God, that guy was scary. I mean, he was big, he was strong, he was muscular, and he looked no nonsense. And I remember seeing him the first, and he seemed to come out of nowhere. I mean, the George Foreman name was, I don't remember hearing it, and all of a sudden, here's George Foreman fighting Muhammad Ali, and I really thought this is the end. Do you remember that fight? Did you see it?
I do, and it was the days of. Now I was very young. It was the days of when you would go to a movie theater and see it on closed circuit, not
Yeah.
your
Oh,
TV.
right.
True.
So, which
Yeah.
was great because you'd be around a bunch of other people. As long as they weren't obnoxious drunks, it was a fun night. Now,
Yeah,
granted, I
right.
was young and older when I was a teenager and older. When my father went through some closed circuit, but if people say, "Oh, I knew Muhammad Ali was going to win," you know, that's like saying you knew. I mean, seriously, it was like people say, "Oh, Donald Trump was going to win." Very few people gave Ali a chance because what George Foreman did to Joe Frazier when the famous "Down goes Frazier," Howard Cosell. I mean, he lifted him off the ground. You know, so nobody expected Ali to do what he did, and that rope-a-dope. You know,
Yeah.
in honesty, to be honest, I don't think it was a good strategy. I know it tired him out, but let's put it in perspective. For you're a boxing guy, you'll follow me on this.
Yep.
Though he did the rope-a-dope, you still were taking punches on your arms, on your
Yeah.
side, from a man that
Yeah.
could knock the building down. So even though you were taking the punishment and holding your arms up, you were still
Yeah.
taking a beating. And I'm sure that it helped with the Parkinson's because Ali
Oh,
took a beating
yeah.
in that fight before he stopped him. It was
Yeah.
by no means George Foreman didn't do anything in that fight.
Yeah. Yeah. He definitely took its toll on Ali with that fight.
Yeah. But no,
And
I
then-
was
and-
surprised when
This is a-
Ali knocked him out. Yes.
Oh, we all were. I mean, we all were.
How did you handle any injuries in your days?
I didn't, but to be honest with you, I'm knocking on my desk here. It's actually real wood. I didn't have anything. I never even got a nosebleed. Nothing. I never got cut.
Awesome.
Granted, we wore headgear. Not that you can't still get punched in the face, but we had headgear.
Yeah.
We had heavier gloves, but I never sustained any injuries. Now after a fight, because your adrenaline is so pumped, you'd feel like, oh man, my shoulder, my this or that, for punches you took that you didn't feel in the ring. But
Right.
knock on wood, I never got cut and I never bled.
Well, good for you. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's good.
But you had mentioned somebody, Jerry Quarry, for example,
Yeah.
where he died, which is a very sad thing, and it's actually something that I've been fighting for more in my more active days of boxing, covering it. A retirement fund for boxers. Jerry Quarry suffered from pugilistic dementia, and a lot of fighters, it's punches to the head, suffer from that. They don't know who they are. They have to be taken care of. And these are tough guys. And boxing, if you're not aware or your viewers aren't aware, is the only professional sport, baseball, football, what am I missing? Basketball, hockey. They have retirement funds. Boxing does not have a retirement fund. And people get enamored with the Oscar De La Hoyas and the Floyd Mayweathers of the money they're making, which is a lot of money. But for every Floyd Mayweather, I can show you 200 fighters that are barely making a living doing this and are working a part-time,
right.
working a full-time
Yeah.
job on top of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's,
Right. You don't
yeah,
think
it's
about
true.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All those guys. That's true. Wow.
And then you got George Foreman 2.0, who shows up 20 years later, this cherubic face, this great grin. You're thinking that's not the killer that we saw 20 years ago, and he's selling charcoal grills, or he's selling his knockout the fat grill.
Yeah, actually.
And
Yep.
was that the greatest thing? I mean, did America rally around him, or did they not? I mean, it was amazing. He was what, 53 when he started his comeback, fighting again for his church.
He last fight, I believe, was in Puerto Rico. He fought Jimmy Young and he lost a decision. He took not 20 years off, he took 10 years off. So he came back in 87. And I want to say, I could be wrong, but I think he was 37 when he came back, because I believe when he won the title in 94 and he knocked out Michael Moore, which was a shocker, I want to say, because he was the oldest heavyweight then, I think might have been 44 when he won the title the second time. But I interviewed George for my book, as you mentioned, in the opening Boxing Interviews of a Lifetime. And somebody was smart, because if you remember George the first time around, he wasn't the nicest guy. He didn't want to talk press. He really, actually, he was more of a jerk than anything. Somebody got with George, I honestly think. And he's a sweetheart, but I think somebody got with him and said, George, you got to go this way, because you'll endear yourself as an older fighter. You're doing the grill thing, and he made more money off the grill, I think, than he ever made in the ring.
Yeah,
and,
probably.
God bless him.
And it's a lot safer too.
And it's a lot safer, right? And it's actually, believe it or not, it's a decent grill. I've used one.
Yeah, it works.
Same here.
It does. It really works.
It really works. But I think a publicist got with him and said, "Hey, you got to go this way," and he did. He kissed babies. He was like a politician. He kissed babies and he signed autographs, and he came back and he won the title again, which was unheard of. And he had a second act, and God bless him for it.
Yeah. He gave a lot of hope to a lot of people that were down and out and thought, hey, if George can do it, I can do it.
He did. The one thing, though, I didn't like is he had some fighters come back that should have never come back. George was special. True. George was special. He didn't take a lot of punishment in his first career. I mean, he was only knocked. His only loss was to Ali and then Jimmy Young. But I mean, that was the only knockout. Jimmy Young took a decision because he was not a heavy puncher. So George didn't take a lot of punishment in his first career. So people don't realize when he came back, that he wasn't beaten up.
Yeah.
And he never lost his power. He was slower, but he never lost that power when he hit you. Yeah. And when he hit you, it was good night, Irene.
Guys, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back after this. This is Bill.
And this is Ray.
And you're listening to Pull Yourself to Pieces,
the podcast that finds the humor from the inside and out.
Catch a brand new episode every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday? Wait, every week?
Well,
you expect me here every single week to do this?
Are you serious?
I have things to do. I've got library books I gotta wash my car.
Are you serious? You can't be here just to record once a week?
All right.
Whew.
Yeah, absolutely. And then all of a sudden, this kid that nobody heard of, Mike Tyson, comes on the scene, and I think he almost ruined the sport of boxing, because at that point,
really,
he was known as 1 Minute Mike. I mean, how many times could you knock somebody out in a minute, over and over again, and not become just a character of yourself? I mean, what'd you think of when you first saw him?
Well, I don't completely agree with that. I liked him I liked him because he was fighting so regularly, and it's something that you don't see in boxing today. I mean, he had 10. Of course, he fought the lesser opposition. I'd never call a fighter a bum, because anybody gets in the ring, they have chutzpah. So,
sure.
But he was fighting weaker opposition to build up his record, sure. And he's knocking, like you say, he was knocking everybody out. And then he meets a guy that I actually know, a good friend of mine, who I managed for a little while in his personal career, not professional, because he was a fighter when I was a kid. And I actually met him at the same gym years before. His first May 3rd, 1986, he goes 10 rounds with James Quick Tillis, and Quick Tillis was a top 10 fighter. Actually, he was number one.
I remember Tillis.
Yeah,
I remember Tillis. Yeah.
Yep. So that was his first fight that went the distance. So Quick laid a blueprint. It was a close fight. I had a 6-4 for Mike. I think two judges had a 6-4. One had an 8-2. 8-2 was a ridiculous decision. Mike didn't win that much. And he did drop him, or it might have been a draw. He dropped Quick in it. But Quick laid the blueprint of how to beat Mike by staying on the outside and boxing him, which is what Buster Douglas wound up doing in February of 1990.
Yep.
And beating him, and that was the biggest upset ever in the history of boxing. far as I'm concerned. If I think he was 42-1. I wouldn't be doing this today if I would have bet on that fight.
If you had bet on that fight, yeah.
Exactly. But no, I liked them. Yeah. If you went to the refrigerator, the fight was over.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean that's what it was, and it was all pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But in fairness to Mike, he was doing what he was supposed to do. But once the aura of invincibility was off of him when Douglas did what he did, people weren't scared of him because Mike intimidated fighters and made them poop in their pants before they ever came in the ring. And that was, he got in their head. And to be honest with you, that's what Ali used to do. Ali was brilliant at it. Ali wasn't a huge puncher. He wasn't.
No, he
Ernie
wasn't.
Shavers.
No, he wasn't.
Actually, you mentioned Ernie Shavers. Ernie Shavers is the hardest hitting heavyweight, in my opinion, of them all. When Ernie hits you, it was twice good night, Irene. But Mike intimidated fighters forever. Look at Michael Spinks in 1988. He was scared before he ever got in the ring. 93 seconds later, he was out of the ring.
Yeah.
But I like Mike. I like Mike. He got with Don King. I'm not a fan of Don King. And then Mike screwed up his life in other areas. It looks like he has a second act.
Yeah.
He's had a second act.
Second
too.
act. Yeah.
A second act. But people forget that before Mike got in trouble, that he was doing commercials for the police department. He was doing Pepsi commercials. If you go to YouTube, your viewers, you'll see him doing Pepsi commercials. I mean, national commercials.
Yeah.
People forget that. But I enjoyed him. I was in boot camp when he knocked out for the title. He was the youngest heavyweight champion ever. He knocked out Trevor Berbick in the second round.
Oh my God, that guy went down like a redwood tree. Holy mackerel!
Yep. Jeez. So no, I enjoyed him.
Yeah.
He took it to the next level where the pay-per-views were, where the fighters were able to make that kind of money, and that was Mike Tyson that did that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. So you decided to make a book.
I was going to ask that question. I'm glad you brought it up.
Boxing Interviews of a Lifetime. And obviously the book is self-explanatory. So how many fighters did you get to interview?
And I'm also curious, how long did it take to get that material together? How many years?
Very good questions. Okay, so to the first question, it was from about 97. We put the book together in 2002. So it was a compilation of interviews over a 5-year period.
Wow.
Okay.
So, and at that time and this is the days of when you would do it on the phone and you had to transcribe them. So, I do my interviews now on Zoom. So if I had a long-winded interviewee, it took a long time to transcribe those interviews, but it was a compilation of 5 years of interviews. And it was, some of the fighters you've already named, Ernie Shavers, Kenny Norton, Chuck Wepner, who Rocky is based on. And the first interview I ever did out the gate was actually my favorite fighter of all time, which is Aaron the Hawk Pryor. He was a junior welterweight champion of the world.
Well, I remember Aaron Pryor. Yeah, I remember that name.
Yep, he fought Alexis Arguello twice, who was my number 2 favorite fighter. So my number 1 fighter, the very first interview I ever did in 1997, I met a guy who was a friend of his, and he set me up and we did the interview. But what I did in the book was I also put celebrities in there and boxing people, but it was all about boxing. For example, I interviewed Joey Bishop from the Rat Pack, who was a huge boxing fan. I interviewed Buddy Hackett, the comedian, as you guys all know. He loved boxing. Who else did I have in there? Jerry Vale. I did an interview with Italian singer Jerry Vale, who loved it so much. His neighbor in Beverly Hills at the time was Al Martino from The Godfather, and a very famous Italian singer, played Johnny Fontane.
Yes.
I get a phone call. I'm cutting the grass. This is in 2000 and when was that? 2000 and no, it was 2000. No, it was 2000. Years go by so quick. I think it was 2000. It was 2000.
Yeah, they do.
Years they go by. And it's amazing because I'm not old like you guys. I'm 26. So
yeah, sure.
I get a phone call, and my ex-wife now says, "Hey, Al Martino's on the phone." I'm like, "Yeah, right. Sure,
right,
right, okay, yeah, the old, hey, is your refrigerator running? You better go out and catch it."
Which one of my buddies is trying to pull the wool over my
Al Martino, because everybody knew I loved The Godfather. I had all the posters in my house, and sure enough, it was Al Martino, and he's like, "Hey, look, Jerry Vale said he did an interview with you, and he's a good friend of mine, and I like boxing, and would you like to do an interview with me? I'm like, do I like to do an interview with you? It's like saying, is the Pope Catholic? Of
Yeah.
course I want to do an interview with you.
Yeah.
So, he was one of my favorites because he went, back to the Rocky Marciano and all of those type of fighters. And Jerry Vale was ringside at the tragic fight between Emil Griffith and Benny the Kid Parit, where he hit the ring buckle and hit his head and he died.
Oh, boy.
So, these guys were there from the 40s, the 50s.
Sure.
They knew Rocky Graziano. They
Yeah.
knew Jake LaMotta. And so that was the angle. And it did really, really well in the boxing world. And
Wow.
now it's 22 years. It'll be 22 years later next year.
Wow.
Is it still available? Can you get it on Amazon?
It's still, yeah, you still can. It's if you go to, you get at wholesale, save some money. I always tell people save a few fuzzles. Go to authorhouse.com and you can order it there. It's online at all of them. Amazon.
Well,
it's everywhere.
I'm going to buy it because I was again a big boxing fan, and I bet those interviews are just awesome. I mean,
Yeah,
it
it
must
was
be.
some great guys, and it's so humbling to interview these guys because when we get older, we're now all the fighters are younger than me. But when I was growing up, they were all older than me. So I
Right,
looked up
sure.
to these guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Kenny Norton and Ernie and George and
Yeah.
all these guys, and then guys that I watched modern day, Shane Mosley, Fernando Vargas, and people like that. So it was an honor to bring their voices, their words and their voices, and not taking them out of context. And a lot of them, they stayed friends. That was what was sad. I'm sure we'll talk about my induction, but that's what was sad when I was naming a lot of the people that I thanked that helped me get to where I was, inducted into the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame.
Well,
a lot of them
that's what
sadly aren't here anymore.
Anymore, right?
Well, that's what I want to talk about next. So tell us about that. Obviously, I don't take this the wrong way, but it wasn't for your boxing career, so it was definitely for the book. So how did this come about?
It was actually for my journalist in broadcasting. It was for that.
Okay.
Yeah, no. The boxing was only 3
We
years.
should ask about your inspiration for the ringside report and how that came about.
Okay, which one do you want me to answer first? Whichever
I think
one.
we should
Whatever
go in
you want,
order, Ray.
whatever you want.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Sure.
All
right.
So the Ringside Report. That's fine. Then we'll talk about the induction.
Okay,
That was
yeah.
part of it. So Ringside Report. I got tired of writing for other websites, and I'm the type that is very creative, and I like when I have people writing for me to give them their own voice. So they have complete creative control, and I didn't have complete creative control over what I wanted to do. So I was like, you know what? I want to start my own website. So I did it.
Got it.
And we started in 2000. I started in 2004, registered business, ringsidereport.com. We became known as the Heart of Boxing. And we started strictly boxing. Then we ventured into MMA. I'm not really a big MMA fan, but I understood the business and it had to be covered because I had readers at that time that enjoyed the sport. I have covered it cage side, but it's too brutal for me. It's not the same sport.
Oh, it is brutal.
Yeah,
Right?
it's brutal. I mean, you're getting
Wow.
kicked, elbows, knees, and slammed to the thing. It's just it's not my thing. I respect them for getting in the cage and doing it, but it's not my sport. So over the years, I'm always trying to be somebody to reinvent myself and try to be a separate from the rest of the pack. So we started in doing entertainment, and then when Trump took over, I wanted to bring people in to give them voices. So we got into politics and world news. So right now it's an online magazine. So you have boxing, MMA, sports, entertainment, politics, world news, science news. It's a whole different vibe than when I first started it.
Yeah, you
But
just
17
evolved with
years
the
later,
times.
yeah,
didn't you?
I evolved with the times, correct.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that didn't evolve with the times that just stayed with boxing because boxing it's not the same. I will always love it, and I'll always have respect for the men and women that get in the ring. But it's not the same sport. It's been bastardized by everything being put on pay-per-view that doesn't belong on pay-per-view. Certain fights, yes, I will have no problem paying. But everything now is pay-per-view. And then when you have these internet sensations, these Paul brothers, I think it's Jake and Logan Paul, I think their names are. One of them fought Floyd Mayweather in an exhibition and made like $100 million because he's got like 800 gazillion followers on YouTube. That's bastardizing the sport. Yes, it was an exhibition, but then you had Floyd Mayweather, who went to 50-0, Floyd Mayweather Jr., who went to 50-0 fighting Conor McGregor, an MMA champion who never had a professional fight, who Floyd, the fight was fixed. He carried him for, I think, 10 rounds, 11 rounds. I think it was 10 rounds. And he knocked him out when he wanted to. So, I still love the sport, but I don't cover it as much as I used to because of the direction it's went in. So, but Ringside Report, again, 17 years, and it's Ringside Report, just like it sounds.com.
Let's take a break for a bit. Don't go nowhere.
Do you need to get more fiber in your diet and want to help clean up overextended landfills? Then go to your local grocery store and pick up a box of Fiber Blast. Fiber Blast contains ground up bits of cardboard, corn cobs, eggshells, and coconut skin. Just fill up a bowl, add some olive oil, and dig in. Your colon will never be the same. Find Fiber Blast in the liquid plumber aisle.
Now, the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame was for broadcasting and journalism from 1997 to present day. As you guys said, I did interviews, but from 2000 to 2012, I was a boxing analyst on a sports show on News Channel 8 with a good friend of mine named Glenn Harris. And it was a 30-minute show, and once a month he'd bring me on to be his boxing analyst, and we'd have talking points, and then I'd take live callers' questions, which was fun in the studio, except when you had to tell them.
Was that out of Florida?
That was while I was in the military. I was a journalist while I was in the military. So I did that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was a poster child for the upper chain of command because they loved it because of the fact that they would, and I'll get back to the broadcast in a minute, but they loved that because I was a poster child because they could tell people, look at this guy. He's in the military, he's in the Navy, but he's doing a whole separate thing, which I did, Right. I covered boxing, I went to fights, I all up and down the East Coast. When I was in Korea, I've covered boxing all over Korea. I don't even know half the places they took me to. And this had nothing to do with the military. This is all on the side.
Yeah.
But the interest was there.
The interest
On
was
both,
there. So
on both parts.
Right, in both parts. The Navy covered me. They wrote a lot of articles on me in the different Navy magazines because I was, it enticed people to show them that, hey, it's not what you think. It's not just yes, you're in the military 24/7, but you can have a life outside of the military.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great for induction for them. Yeah.
You got that right. You got that right. I should have got a cut of that. And I was a
commission. You should have got a commission for every body that they brought in.
Exactly. Everybody that came in.
He was carrying around classified. He was carrying classified material. That's that was.
That was during the war. There was no boxing covered there. That was the only time when I didn't cover boxing.
Yeah, those were boxing magazines he was carrying around, Bill.
Yeah. There you go. But I tell you what, though, during the Gulf War, when we had some off time, and I went to a city called Taormina, which is a resort area to a nightclub, I met one of the greatest fighters that ever stepped in a ring, and I met him.
Who?
I got introduced, and somebody said, I could pick up on your New York accent. I'm like, yeah. He said, well, we're talking, and I don't know how boxing came up. I said, oh, yeah. And the person said, I'm going to take you on the other side. I'm going to introduce you to somebody, but I'm not going to tell you who it is. I said, okay, fine. I probably know who it is. They said, yeah, you will. You're going to be in shock. They take me to the other side of the nightclub, and it was an open air nightclub. It was a big dance floor, bars all around, beautiful. You could see the ocean. And sitting in a bleacher, this gentleman had black dress pants, white shirt, white dinner jacket, and a necklace with a big, thick gold boxing glove. And in diamonds on the boxing glove, he had his initials, MMH. You know who that is?
MMH.
He just died, sadly.
No.
Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Marvin. I remember Hagler.
Oh, right,
yeah. Oh my God.
Introduced me to him.
I thought you were going to say Larry Holmes.
No. I interviewed Larry when I did a podcast show years later. No, and I spent half the night talking to him, but he filled me. He was filling me out to see if I knew the sport. I told him his record, his losses, the whole nine. He was like, your stuff. But he kept trying to talk to me in Italian. And I'm like, I only know the curse words. So, because he married. It's true.
How did he know Italian? How the hell did he know Italian?
Because he married an Italian woman. That's why he lived in Italy.
And absolutely here was cursing,
Okay. All right. Well, now that makes sense now.
He married an Italian woman, and he was making movies over there with Anthony Quinn's son, Francesco.
Get out of here.
No, look him up on IMDb.
So,
Yep.
so
he was
there's life
making
after boxing, huh?
That's
his life
interesting.
after yeah, because he quit
Life
when
after boxing.
life after boxing, because the last fight was against Sugar Ray. And when he lost that fight, he
I
never
remember
boxed
that fight.
again. Yeah, he never boxed again.
I remember
So,
that fight.
but yeah,
Yeah.
but to tie it back into the broadcasting, into the Hall
Yeah.
of Fame, 12 years I was doing analyst stuff. So they inducted me off of Ringside Report, off of my interviews, off of my broadcasting side, and it was a humbling experience, just an honor of a lifetime to go in there, to get
Oh,
the
yeah, I
Hall of
bet.
Fame ring and all of that, and be in the museum, and like I said,
One of your proudest moments, I bet.
yeah, no, absolutely. And, it all goes back to my father. My father instilled a love of activism and a love of boxing in me at a young age, because he knew fighters from the golden age, like Bo Jack and Kid Gavilan. He drove cross country with Rocky Graziano from Miami. He meets Rocky Graziano on Miami Beach, and he says, "Hey, Al, drive with me to New York." And I just bought this car. And my dad said, "Sure." But the only problem was my dad didn't have a driver's license, but he still drove with him. He still drove. He still got behind the wheel and drove with them to New York. And as I said, when he got a driver's license, it wasn't much better, because he was a horrible driver.
Yeah. Oh, well. Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
So that's how the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame came about,
Right.
from the broadcast
Well,
journalist side.
Well, congratulations. That is quite a record you have of being in the boxing world. I mean, an amateur boxer. You wrote the book. You were a boxing journalist, and then you were finally recognized by the Boxing Hall of Fame. That's
Right.
pretty good. I hope to get recognized by the by something somehow at some point. Um, maybe
Yeah,
for
You're
my
gonna have to keep
great
hoping for
skill
that, Ray.
my great skill of cooking. Maybe I will get the
I've
what's
had
that
your
woman?
cooking.
What?
I'm not. You might have to keep waiting for that one.
Yeah.
But
The
the one
Julia
thing we didn't talk
Child.
about with Brad
Brotherly
is
love out here.
the one thing we didn't talk about with Brad was
What?
his
His show.
current.
Tell us about your show. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Tell us about your current show.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, your viewers can find it if they go to YouTube, type in Ringside Report Web, WEB TV channel, and you'll find I do several different shows, but the main one is the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. And we started it. Debbie and I talked about it when we were in Oklahoma, because I was doing interviews in print. And as we talked about earlier, I wanted to reinvent myself. So I said, let's take it to the next level. I'm tired of, typing out all these interviews. Let's do it on video. So Debbie was like, sure.
Yeah.
And we started out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we lived before we moved to Northwest Indiana. And I was interviewing local fighters, MMA people, trainers, stuff like that. And it was strictly sports at that time. Well, when we moved here, she got a job. Debbie got a job with BP, and we relocated to Northwest Indiana. Don't tell anybody. And
No, nobody's listening. We only have 5 listeners anyway.
well, okay, and 4 of them turned me off an hour ago.
I hope not.
For the one that's listening, I don't tell anybody I live in Northwest Indiana, folks. But so we moved out here in 2017. We were doing interviews. We built a house, and I made my office a studio office. So we're still doing them, and with sports people still. And then COVID hit. So when COVID hit, I took a hiatus, because I was doing them in person. And then we, like everybody, and I know we'll talk about it, we were faced every freaking day with Trump on the TV. And he was driving me nuts.
Every
like
day.
Everybody else. He was making me verklempt.
Yeah. And we know what that means.
Exactly. Nice Yiddish words for the Jewish viewers, because I'm Jewish on the father's side. So I was like, I can't take this. So I'm like, I want to bring the show back. Well, Deb bought Marielle Trump's first book, Too Much and Never Enough, about her uncle and the family.
Yep.
So I read it, and I said, I did a book review on it, and Mary saw the book review, and it was very, very blunt.
Yeah.
And we connected on Twitter, and we became friendly. And she said, and this was when I was first coming back to the show, I said, you know what? I want to take this in a different direction. Trump, I can't take it. I got to speak out about Trump. I just cannot stand what's going on in the country. So she suggested to me, you need to do Zoom interviews. It'll open up the world to you.
Yeah.
And she was my first one in September of 2020 at the height of COVID.
Yeah.
And I took it from there forward into another direction. So my activism side came out there. I still had musicians on. Not everybody I talked to is politics. Anthony Scaramucci comes on. He's been on 4 times.
Sure.
But,
Right.
not everybody talks about politics. And most of the people, I haven't had honestly anybody on that's a Trump supporter. And I really don't want to have anybody on that's on their side because I can't deal with the craziness.
Yeah. No, we
Sure.
get
Even
it.
though, even
Yeah,
though
we
we
get
could, we could go back and forth. I could debate policies with people that I know that are Republicans that aren't crazy and never supported Trump. I got no problems with that.
Right.
I can deal with Republicans that never supported Trump. Absolutely, we can debate. I have nothing against them. But the Trumpagans and the QAnon, the QOP as they call it, or whatever it is,
Yep.
I can't. I'm not reaching out. So that's where the show went. So the show went in that direction. But I've had on, you guys are in the entertainment field. I've had on people like Barney Miller, Hal Linden's been on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw. Yeah, we saw.
Yeah, I mean, just the absolute sweetheart of a man. Oh, what a career!
It's
Lanny Kazan, and just so that was the direction that I went in, and that's going to be pretty much the direction that I'm going to go in because I've interviewed honestly everybody that I've ever wanted to interview for boxing, and the sport has changed. I still love it. I still support it. The good pieces of it, but my life has taken a different turn. So
Right, yeah.
with everything going on in the country, I want to bring on guests that are moving humanity forward. So that's where we are with the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're having fun, and that's important. You got to enjoy what you're doing.
Got to enjoy what you're doing.
Hey Ray, when is that going to happen for us?
I don't know. We have to keep at it.
It's a labor of love, right?
It's a labor of love. We have to keep at it. Yeah.
I have to say something before I forget it. It's about Trump, and I absolutely you described it pretty well, Brad. And for me, I never was a Trump fan, but I tried to be sympathetic to people that had voted for him in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
But after the things that happened, when we got to 2020, I just
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I absolutely understand. I agree with you 100%. I agree with you. Well, see, that's why a talking point. Adam Kinzinger of Illinois and Liz Cheney, they don't get any credit with me, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the left, wherever you are, I'm trying to be. I'm an independent, believe it or not. I was a Democrat. I was a Democrat. I was a Republican till Trump. I changed from Democrat to Republican for a short period of time till they put him up as a nominee.
Sure.
When they ran him, if they would have ran John Kasich, I probably would have voted for John Kasich
or John Cain.
Right. Well, if John McCain was still alive, right?
John McCain. Yeah.
Right. John McCain.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
But
sure.
I did vote for Hillary because I was not going to waste my vote and vote for, even though I wasn't a huge Hillary fan, I wasn't going to vote for Trump. But the problem was, like with Kinzer and Cheney, after all he did, and you're still going to vote for him, and they both voted for him in 2020. And if the January 6th insurrection wasn't enough to stop with Donald Trump,
that wasn't enough.
Because I'm look, I'm a military guy. I support the troops, but I don't pull any punches. I say it about my own community, which is the military. If you're a military person, and this is how I feel, and it's not popular, but it's how I feel, and I stand by it. If you're a military person, a veteran, now active duty, you can go in a booth and vote for, it's a secret thing. No one knows who you're voting for. But veterans and retirees, which I'm one of, if you're still with Trump after January 6th, for me, you negate your service because you're siding with a traitor. I mean, you're saying treason to the country is okay. That was white domestic terrorism, men and women that attacked the Capitol to do bad things. And the fact that people are minimizing it, the Lauren Boeberts and the Marjorie Taylor Greens and Trump himself who spun it up. Come on, it's insanity. And if you're okay, look, just today's Sunday. Yesterday, this is fact. And I'm only talking facts when it comes to politics. In Crown Point, which is that we live in Winfield, but it's Crown Point address, Crown Point, Indiana. In the Crown Point Center, which is an old building where they used to have John Dillinger was here. They held him in a jail, and he broke out. And they have a little building that was the courthouse and all that. Just yesterday, they had people with signs. The election was stolen, which it was not. They had a flag. Still, but see, and I won't curse because we can't curse. So, but I'll say what the flag said, but I won't say it all. So the flag said, "F Joe Biden," and under the flag it said, "And if you voted for him, F you too." Okay, let me be brutally honest here.
Go.
If Joe Biden would have lost this election fair and square, I would have not been happy. I would have fought against Trump his second term, but I would have never said the election was stolen. I would never condone people with Biden signs in their yard like they have out here and all through the United States saying the election was stolen. Joe Biden is our president. It's not Trump. Look, he was the president. I had no respect for he's the only Republican or Democratic president in my lifetime that when he came in, I no longer respected the office because he defecated on the office. Yeah. I called it the QVC house instead of the White House because he pitched products out of it. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
But he lost the election and these people are still with it. And the other flag that they had, and this is true, I'm not saying it to be funny, was Donald Trump 2024 JFK Jr.
Yeah, I saw that.
Now, in what universe? Yeah. And first of all, he was a Democrat. First of all, he was a Democrat.
I know.
So guys, you're the comedy part of this show.
Yeah, I know.
So
we can't make this.
When you come back,
we couldn't
when
make
you
this
come
up.
back from the dead.
No.
Yeah, when you come back from the dead, you are no longer a Democrat, and you're an angry Democrat now because he's pissed off that he was dead.
And you realize that Q is some college kid that's doing this as his it's an experiment for him to see how he can manipulate people to believe the wackiest crap that he can think of, and he laughs every day at how he manipulates people.
Yeah,
and this is who Q is.
And here's the thing: the former president, the former guy, as I call him, petulant child in chief, stands behind a bully pulpit and gives legitimacy. First of all, it wasn't bad enough. I was stationed in South Korea in 2002, from January 2002 to January 2003. His father was in charge. I re-enlisted on the Bridge of No Return. It's called the DMZ. When you look through, you go up in a DMZ, you look through a telescope, and there's a fake city that makes it look like it's it's high tech. It's there. North Korea is probably in worse shape than Russia is as far as controlling the people. Well, he took Kim Jong-un, a murderous dictator, who kills people if they disagree with him, starves people, and has people worshiping the ground he walks on, and put him on the same level as the president of the United States. Yeah. He did the same thing with the Proud Boys when he was debating Joe Biden, then candidate, when he said, give me a name. Proud Boys, stand back and stand by, or stand down or whatever. No, stand back and stand by. Yeah. He gave Q. He said, well, I don't know what Q is, but I hear his favorite talking point. But I hear people are saying that they're against pedophiles, and I guess that's not a bad thing. Well, no, they're against, because there's been talk that he's a pedophile, but nothing sticks to this guy. When have you ever seen anybody? I'll give you guys a perfect example talking point. Gary Hart, Monkey Business, 1987, front runner for the Democratic nomination. Remember him?
Go ahead. Yeah, we know. Go ahead.
So Jessica Hahn, I think, was the one that was sitting on his lap. They see that. Who was it? Jessica who?
It wasn't Jessica Hahn. It was the other one.
Flower?
Jessica Hahn was fooling around with the pastor.
Okay. With Jim Baker? Jim Baker.
Say that again?
Was it Jim Baker that she was fooling around with?
Right. Jessica Hahn was fooling around with Jim Baker, but I know who you're talking about.
Okay, so the one. Okay, I can't think of who it is.
Gary Hart and this woman.
This woman, he gets caught. He's no longer the front runner. Dukakis gets the nomination. That's the end of his career. That's the end of him. That's it. Trump attacks John McCain. Look, I didn't agree with all of John McCain's policies, but I will say this. I thought he cared about this country, and he was a 100%, because I worked for 6 months. It was classified then, declassifying. It was a Senate committee tour of duty for 6 months, declassifying POW MIA documents, prisoner of war missing in action documents. So I was because I had a clearance, I was declassifying, I was one of many, declassifying these documents for 6 months. I saw these documents and what these people went through. Like Admiral Stockdale, who was Ross Perot's VP, he was a prisoner of war. And McCain was in a Hanoi Hilton for, I believe, 5.5 years. He could have got out earlier because his father was a full admiral, Navy admiral. He let people go before him that were there longer, and he could not even lift up his arm to comb his hair. Well, this guy comes along and says, I like my war heroes not captured. Right then and there, it should have been the end of his run. Forget that he came down the escalator and said Mexicans are rapists and murderers, but I'm sure there's some good ones. But you know what he did? That percentage that still follows him, because that's 62 million plus voted for him the first time, 74.2 the second time. He got the most votes ever for a president in office. 12 plus million more people decided to vote for him after what you said earlier, all the horrible things he did.
Yeah.
Well, it's time to take another break. We'll be right back.
This is Arnold, and you're listening to Pull Yourself to Pieces, the podcast that finds the humor from the inside and out.
Arnold, is it a tumor?
It's not a tumor. Hey, catch a brand new episode every Wednesday. Hasta la vista, baby.
I'm serious. I really do try to be fair and down the middle. I want a two-party system. I don't want the one party to get everything they want. I left the Democratic Party because I started making decent, real good money. And I was like, I'm getting killed on taxes here. I'm all for, I tell people I'm liberal on social issues. I'm pro-choice, but I'm more conservative on spending, defense spending. I'm for program. I believe in a hand up, not a hand out.
Yeah.
Constantly are getting everything for free. Somebody's got to pay for it. That's what drove me nuts with Bernie. Everything is, we're going to give everything away. You can't give everything away. Who's going to pay for this? And I'll give you another point. It drove me nuts. Look, when Bernie kept saying the top 1%, the top 1%, it's like with Bernie, if you're in the top 1%, you say you work your whole life or half of your whole life and you become a billionaire because you worked your tail off and you did it honestly.
Right.
Only thing I'm going to say is pay your fair share in taxes like everybody and take care of your employees. If you have a business, pay your employees a living wage.
Sure.
But the top 1% shouldn't have to pay for the other 99%. I don't agree with that logic. It's not fair. And Bernie drove me nuts with that. So I left the Democratic Party and I became a Republican for a very short time. And then when Trump was nominated, I'm like, I'm done. So
you got nowhere else to go.
Right. There was nowhere else to go. So I was independent. Now, if somebody would ask me, well, who do you lean more towards? Of course, I lean more towards the Democrats, but they drive me nuts too because they don't do things that they should be doing. Right. And to be honest with you, they have an opportunity of a lifetime because I don't feel there is a Republican Party left because, when I had Anthony on, if you saw the show, I said, Anthony, let's be honest. Jack Kemp, Papa Bush, a young Bob Dole, they would have never, I'm not saying policies. Again, policies, for your viewers, we can debate policies.
Sure.
But they would never allow a Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Lauren Boebert, a Madison Cawthorn in a wheelchair who's the biggest jagoff, Matt Gaetz. Now, if Matt Gaetz would have been a Democrat gentleman, he would have been out. Al Franken.
Al Franken.
I'm not condoning what he did with the woman doing the thing. Yeah. He was wrong. But he was out over that. You got guys that were sleeping with underage girls. They don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the Access Hollywood tape should have put the kibosh on, should have ended it. And when it didn't, I think we all went, uh-oh.
Yeah.
This country did an uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, look.
Yeah.
As somebody, I'm sure you've had people in your family serve in probably World War II and beyond.
My father. My dad served in World War II, and they called him back. They called him back for Korea, and he went.
Yep.
See? So World War II, my grandfather was in World War. This is the Italian side. The Campanellos, Joseph Campanello, World War II in the Army during the war. And my great-grandfather, Francis Amantia, Frank, was in World War I. This guy went to Helsinki in 2017, stood next to Putin. This is fact. Stood next to Putin, and the reporter asked him about him meddling in an election, which was proven that he did meddle in the election. Right. He says,
Yep.
I asked Putin if he meddled in the election. He told me he didn't, and I believe him. He should have. Air Force One should have left his orange bloated, derriere over in Helsinki and said, Mike Pence, even though I'm not a fan of Mike Pence either.
Yeah.
The fly knew where it was landing because of flies are attracted to what. But they should have said, Pence, you're now president. You're
now president.
You're not coming. We're pulling your citizenship, Trump. I mean, who does that? The DNI, which was Dan Coates at the time, sat there and was in shock that he would say that. And look, I've worked in intelligence. I'm not going to tell you everything we've done as a country. We've done things always right. We don't always do things right. But to sit in another country with no Republican before would have ever said Russia is our friend. And he never called white supremacy out, and he never called Putin out.
Yeah. Well, that's because he's indebted to Putin. I'm sure he's been laundering money for Putin for decades. And Trump, we all know, is a racist and a white supremacist.
Yes, he is.
We all know this.
Yes.
It's obvious. So.
Well, look, gentlemen, you're Italian, right? You said family from Sicily, right?
We both are.
Right, both are. I tell people, my father was Jewish. He was bar mitzvah. I wasn't. I was brought up Catholic. My mother's side is the Italian side. And I used to tell people, I don't know if you can still say this joke, but I'm going to say it. I don't believe in cancel culture completely. So the joke when I used to do book signings, they'd ask me about stuff. And I say, look, I'm Jewish and Italian. I said, what does that mean? I said, well, it means I like expensive things, which is the Italian side, at a discount, which is the Jewish side. So it covers both sides of the family. Period.
Sure.
I love that.
Yeah, that's good.
Exactly.
I like that.
Right. So, but you have Italians that love Trump, and they forgot that when both of my sides, the Jews and the Italians came, Russian Jews came from Kiev, Italians came from Naples and Calabria. I think that's how you say it. Calabria.
Wait, back up. Stop. You have relatives from Calabria?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, so do we. We're half and half.
See,
we're half. The father's side. Our father's side is from Calabria, and the mother's side is from Sicily. Wow, small world. That's amazing.
Yep. What do they say? I'm probably gonna say it wrong. Calabrese bouchets. Calabrese.
The Calabrese. Yeah.
Right.
Calabrese. Yeah.
Right. Calabrese. So I have family both. So both my family came through Ellis Island. My father's
so did ours.
And right. And my grandmother's parents came from Italy. They migrated from Italy. So when Italians came, they were called derogatory things, WOP, which was without papers. That's what that
without
that
papers, right?
Yep. And other things. You had Sacco and Vanzetti, I think, were hung.
Sacco and Vanzetti,
were hung. We were spit on. We were treated as second-class citizens. Italians. So we forgot how Trump is treating people now. But a lot of Italians run with Trump. Like when Anthony says the things that he says, and Anthony's still a Republican. He's still a Republican. He didn't change parties yet. But he doesn't back a lot of their platform.
Sure.
So when he says a lot of things that he says, I look at his Twitter feed because we follow each other on Twitter. He's called a mutt. He's called a dog. He's all of these things. Like Robert De Niro. Let's take Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro used his platform. Now, you have every right not to like what he said, and he has every right to say what he said. But when he said F Trump at the Emmys, I think it was the Emmys, all the people that used to be able to quote his lines, you're talking to me, you couldn't put me down, Ray. Little bit, you know. Now he's a mutt, a dog, and everything else because they can say what they want, but the other side can't say what they want. Now that's hypocrisy.
Yeah. It is. We're seeing it in real time right now. We're seeing hypocrisy right now.
Right, and Trump said the most evil stuff that ever was said behind. Look what he just did with Colin Powell. You saw the letter that he released last month on letterhead. Now look, I'll be fair. Maybe there was people that felt like he was a rhino, as they call him, Republican name or whatever. But no sitting president would have said that publicly. They would have honored his service and bit their tongue and done the right thing. Bush would have done it. But Reagan would have done it. They all would have done it. Now, in private, they might have said, I didn't like Colin Powell, which I did, but I'm just saying. Now, it might have leaked out through a book, a future book, or it might have leaked out through an aide, but they would have never went on their letterhead or behind the bully pulpit or attacked John McCain when he died. The flag was at half-mast. He took it all the way back to the top, and they had to make him take it down. That's disgusting to me.
It is disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a shame, like you said earlier, Brad, that we don't have I feel like we don't have the two-party system anymore.
We don't.
There's such a fear of Trump that the
Republicans are kowtowing.
Yes.
But you know why they're doing it? They're doing it for his base, because here's a guy.
I know.
And here's the thing. I like I said, I try to be as fair on my show as I possibly can.
Sure.
Donald Trump is a stupid man. Ted Cruz is not stupid. Mitch McConnell, they do stupid things, they say stupid things, and they manipulate the system because they're greedy and they want power.
Sure.
Ted Cruz is a civil lawyer who was one of the best, they said, at what he did. Mitch McConnell's been in power, I think, over 30 years. These other people that are Republicans, they're not stupid. They know that the election wasn't stolen.
Of course they know. Well, so does Trump.
That it's insanity. And so does Trump. They're willing to kiss his ring for his base.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yep.
They see a block of 75 million people that they figure they could swing over to their side and that they'll back them.
And here's the thing, gentlemen. As much as I despise Trump, and actually I don't despise, I hate him. I'm not going to lie. I said on my show, I hate him. But I hate him for what he's done to this country. And look, I am a realist. This country was never great. So that MAGA, Make America Great Again, who are we making it greater again? Because we just said Italians weren't treated right at one time.
Right.
African Americans are still not treated right.
Right.
You got the LGBTQ community that still isn't treated right.
Right.
You have Irish people that weren't treated right. You have people that built this country was
Native
built
American
on foreigners that built this country. You have a guy that comes down and puts kids in cages. You'll never hear me say that we don't have an immigration problem at the border, because we do. But putting kids in cages and separating from their parents, and some will never be reunited, no, that was not the answer. And Jeff Sessions was part of that. And here, good old Jeff Sessions, who did one thing right. He recused himself because he knew that the Russians were involved and he had contact with them, and Trump hated him from that day. But they forgot all of this stuff. See, facts don't work in their world.
Yeah, no.
And they assume that we forget, because we seem to forget things too. That's what happens.
Yeah, well, because you know why? Well, we forget things because you know why we forget things? Because let's be honest, news cycles. You both are in the media world now with your podcast show. News cycles are usually we're 24 to 48 hour cycles. Trump, no BS, were like 3 minutes. He would do something, and then 5 minutes later, and he was.
How can you keep up with all?
You can't keep up. Look. President Biden signed the infrastructure bill the other day, one of the biggest things in probably the last 50 years, where one thing that Republicans and Democrats, you can debate the price tag. I'm cool with that. I wish both sides would take the pork, the fat out of it. You know, you get this, you get that.
Yeah, we all do.
Right, and both sides do it. They're guilty of it.
Yep.
But it still got signed, even though I'm tired of Manchin and Sinema, but it still got signed. What was the lead story? Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon was the lead story for all the. I won't watch CNN anymore. I'm tired of CNN. Steve Bannon was the lead story. The lead story should have been the infrastructure bill and people breaking it down. So that when the Democrats, because they have terrible messaging, people should have been on TV breaking it down for people to understand this is what we're doing for the American people. But the media would rather sensationalize it and put Steve, which I call him paramecium because he looks like a paramecium, Bannon. And Anthony, I have to give credit to Anthony Scaramucci. He says he dresses in contemporary hobo. That's what Anthony said on my show, which is true.
That covers it. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, Steve Bannon's probably got more money than three of us will ever have. He's rich. Plus the money that he stole that he got a pardon for.
Yeah, but build the wall. All the money he skimmed off of that scam.
Yep. And Trump, look at the people with Trump pardon. Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn is a traitor to this country. Yeah. He should be tried, lose his rank, and be put in prison and lose his retirement. This guy wanted Trump to declare martial law. He knows that it wasn't stolen. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm talking about generals. General Mattis, and he is the only one, and just as me talking, my opinion, of course, General Mattis was the only one that he put in his cabinet that I had respect for. I served with him, but not closely, but I was, same year, so I knew people that knew him.
Sure.
He cared about the troops. He was never fired by President Obama like Trump said. That's not true. He put his paperwork in. They might have got into it, but he retired, which a lot of times that happens.
Yeah.
He was Mad Dog before Trump ever said Mad Dog, which they proved he did not nickname him. And Trump did not fire him. They showed the letter. He resigned. Trump pissed him off. If you remember early on, they had the round table. And Trump, suck up to the dictator, Trump. And Mike Pence was over there. Oh, Mr. President, it's an honor of a lifetime, and God sent you. And, and this one, that one. When Janice was asked, he said, it was an honor. It's an honor to serve the troops, not Trump, the troops, because he was a secretary of defense. That was his job. He didn't have fealty to Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
And people forget this. They forget this.
Yeah. No.
Listeners, we'll be back in a flash after this message.
Have you recently moved out to the country and find you can't sleep because it's too quiet? The folks at Hyperactive Laboratories have a solution: the noise machine, an alarm clock that you can custom program to make sounds as you sleep. Miss the inner city? Listen to gunshots, sirens, car crashes, loud drunks, and more. Miss the sounds of the suburbs? Listen to dogs barking, couples arguing about the babysitter, lawn sprinklers, and Mercedes-Benz car alarms. There is a setting for every lifestyle. Now you can sleep with all the noise that you've come to know and love. The Noise Machine. Find us in the Sharper Image catalog. Are you feeling better, Brad? It sounds like you're getting a lot of it out. Are you feeling good? You're getting a lot of it out.
I want you to know, 25 minutes ago, I laid down on the couch.
Good for you.
Which one of you is Billy Crystal? Because we need to make a sequel to analyze that.
It might as well be Bill. You might as well let Bill do that one.
Probably me. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, you echo basically every single thing that what my brother and I talk about. We are all in agreement with what you have to say, hands down, without a doubt.
We don't always get to do it on this show, but
and we don't always get, because we try and not get political, but every now and then you gotta come out and say what's right.
Right.
And I think what really hurts the most is that all three of us are from New York, and so is Trump. And so I think that's what hurts the most, is that we have a New Yorker here that has messed up this country for 4 years plus. He's still screwing it up. And I think that hurts the most.
Sure. Well, it does, but what's really disgusting on top of everything else is, honestly, Republican or Democrat, I don't care, whichever way your viewers go, I'm fine with Republicans and I always say, just not this guy, not Trump. But we've never had an ex-president ever. George Bush, look, whether you like him or not, I'm going to give him credit in one area. He never, and he was probably 99% against everything that President Obama did, but he never opened his mouth. And and he has a legitimate friendship with Michelle Obama. And when it came time for ex-presidents to go, like on 9/11 and different things, President Bush was there. President Carter, before he got sick, he was there. President Ford, when he was alive, you will never see Trump. And even though, and this is fact, no, it's not required to have a peaceful transition of power, and it's not required for a former president to go to an inauguration. And I believe the last time it didn't happen, from my research, was in the 1800s. So obviously way before social media and everything where it's in your face.
Yeah.
But we have norms in this country. And norms are, you release your tax returns, especially if you're not hiding anything.
Right.
Norms are,
Right.
You lose and you concede. You
Right.
don't
Yep.
say the election is stolen and
Right.
take
Yeah.
the country down with you when every case you had but one was thrown out. And that Mamaluke,
Yep.
Rudy Giuliani, was People Magazine or Time Magazine Man of the Year. He had clout out the Wakamazoo. Now
Yep.
is a laughing joke
Big
all
stocks, yeah.
behind Trump.
Yep.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
threw it
Trump.
all away behind Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like what they say: everything Trump touches turns to
Dies.
crap.
It
And
dies.
it's the
There's a
truth.
book I think called Dies. And he throws everybody. Look, I heard him say one time that when he gets out of the presidency, he's going to take his business back over and he's going to do better than his kids. I mean, it's not even funny to me. Who doesn't want their kids to be better than us? We want our kids to be better than us. Not
Yeah,
this
we do.
guy. Not
No,
he's
not this guy.
he's a narcissistic misogynist.
So curious. If you had the opportunity to interview Trump on your show, would you do it?
I'm going to answer that question 100% honestly because I've actually addressed that.
Huh.
I would 100 million %, and I will put $100,000 down bet that I would do it. And I said on your show, so you got, I'm not Lindsey Graham who said, and use my words against me. I would absolutely interview him. And I promise you the very first question, I don't know what it would be, he would get up and he would walk out because I would not let him overtalk me. I would not let him lie. I would stop him every single time. When Don Lemon interviewed him on CNN in 2015, he looks at Don Lemon and he says, I am the least racist person you'll ever meet. First of all, how do you even quantify who's the least racist person that you could ever meet? How do you quantify that?
No, you can't. No.
Because look, let's be honest. We all have our we all have our not racist.
Just say it. It's the truth. No.
No, not racist. The other word. We all have our there's a word I can't think of it. It's not racist.
Prejudicisms?
Yeah, we all have some type of something, maybe prejudice, but that's not the word. I can't think of the word.
No, I know what you mean.
All our little things that we may believe or feel, and it may be right, it may be wrong. No, it's not racism. It's another word. I cannot think of it right now. Debbie would correct me if she was here. But
That's all right.
We're
This isn't live, so you got time to think of it.
No, I don't care. You can put it in. But honestly, no, I would absolutely interview him. And I want every news media outlet because I would be right down the middle with him. I would not allow him to spew his BS. Okay, he would not be able to tell me that in the 70s, him and his father, Fred, didn't put C or N for colored or Negro on apartment applications. And it's bad when the Nixon administration, because they've had Nixon on tape being racist, when the Nixon administration investigates you, you got a problem. And that's the truth. That's the truth. And I'm going to tell you something. I would take Nixon over Trump. He could break into 82 different Watergates. And I might even help him break into a Watergate to take him over. I take G. Gordon Liddy and the crew over Trump. Because you took somebody that had no business being the president. He had 6 bankruptcies? He ran this country like he ran his business. And even when he had the one success that he had on The Apprentice, it was because he had producers. You're fired wasn't even his line. The office wasn't even his office. They had to build his office because his office was a dump. So all of that was fake.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah, but no, I would love the chance. In fact, I'll do you one better. I'll piggyback off what you said. Not only would I like to interview Donald Trump, I would like to interview Mike Pence. I would like to interview Donald Trump Jr. and the daughter, and Jared, all of them, because I think them. And how about nepotism? Nepotism in the White House, but if you brought him into your business, they say, "Oh, you can't do that, guys. You can't bring that's nepotism."
Right.
He gave Jared. Jared basically was in charge of everything. In fact, you should ask Jared, has he been to Area 51 because he ran everything else? It's the truth, but I mean, it's funny, but it's not the truth.
Funny but true, right?
He's gonna fix the Middle East. Why? Because he walks around in his bar mitzvah suit that's too small. He was gonna fix all the problems in the Middle East. It's insane.
No, bad. No, he didn't hire the best people. That's the thing.
No, he didn't.
He lied.
Drain the swamp? Oh, he drained
there
the
was
swamp.
a lie? No.
And you know, and
Yeah.
the one other talking point on that we're talking about with Trump is I always tell people stop. He did not start racism and misogyny in this country
No, he
against
didn't.
women.
He didn't.
But what he did was he gave it voice. He gaslighted it.
Yep.
He used the bully pulpit, the most powerful thing in the world, the bully pulpit from the White House to do it. Charlottesville, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Find people on both sides. Now they feel comfortable, but I always remind them Donald Trump to this day is 20, 30 Secret Service agents deep. You may not get to him, but you can get to the person that's in your face spewing that stuff. And they forget that. They think they can say whatever they want, because especially on social media. And how bad is the president of the United States got banned from social media? Is that not an embarrassment to the rest of us? I mean, great. It's a great thing that happened, but it's embarrassing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, this is one for the history books.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to tell our grandchildren how we lived through it. Because they're going to ask questions. What was it like, Daddy? What was it like, Grandpa?
Unless we
Oh.
forget, as humans seem to do, we seem to forget things. You know, that's why we repeat
No.
history.
That's why I love Rod Serling. I'm friends with his daughter. Ann Serling was on my show. You know, the
Yeah, I saw
Twilight
that.
Zones the Twilight Zone episodes that he wrote are still relevant today because he talked about these things. He talked
Yes, they
about
are.
racism. He talked about greed. And he was prolific. 1959 to 1964, the show ran, and those episodes are still to this day. You know, that's why you saw a lot of memes on Twitter and Facebook back in the day. I'm not on Facebook anymore. Which you know, you stepped into the Twilight Zone. You know, we had BC, and now we're AD. Right after the death, I'm waiting for them to change it AT after Trump because of what he's done to this country.
And speaking of the Twilight Zone, you know, that show launched the career of so many actors that we know of today that started on that show before they were anybody famous.
That show was way ahead of its time.
That show had so many great actors on it.
Absolutely. And we just had one who went into outer space. You know who that is at the age of 90.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he was on the one
William
with the
Shatner.
Gremlins on the plane.
Brad, have you heard William Shatner sing?
Oh my God, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
You've heard it.
It's so bad with the cigarette. Lucy.
How about
Sky.
Mr. Tambourine Man? Have you heard Mr. Tambourine
yes,
Man?
I've heard it. Yes.
Is that the funniest thing you've ever heard in your life?
The funniest thing, I think the only thing equal, not as bad, but was pretty funny to me, is when Telly Savalas sang.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
What song did he do?
I forget what he did, but it was.
Oh my God, it must have been good.
Yeah, it was so good. I forget.
It probably was like Sebastian Cabot singing. Remember?
Oh my God, Sebastian Cabot from
It ain't
Family
me,
Affair.
babe.
And he was on, by the way. Sebastian Cabot. He played the devil.
There is a compilation album out there. It's called Golden Throats, and it's a bunch of people singing who are not known for singing, and Shatner's on there. What's his name? Shatner's on there. Mae West is on there.
You know what? I have Mae West.
Andy Griffith is on there. The guy who played what's his name? Can't think of his name right now. Spock is.
Leonard Nimoy.
Leonard Nimoy is on there singing 2 songs. Sebastian Cabot's on there.
Oh wow,
singing a couple of songs. This album is absolutely hysterical.
They had some follow-ups to that album. There's like a Golden Throats 2 and a 3.
Yeah, there's a Golden.
Really?
Yeah, but Golden Throats 1 is the best because it's got 2 songs by Shatner and they're hysterical.
Well,
if you can find it, listen to it.
I am. I'm going to look it up on Amazon. You mentioned Mae West. My father was a record collector, and he had the Mae West album on wax. And 2 of the songs that she did on there was "Great Balls of Fire" and "Light My Fire" from Jim Morrison and the Doors. Yep. Oh, Mae West.
I can't remember the song that she does on Golden Throats, but it's definitely great. It's
Check it out.
Hysterical. It's very, very funny.
It sounds like something that would have been on the Dr. Demento show back in the day.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. And if you want, and another great one is the Bob Dylan Christmas album.
No,
really.
Christmas from the Heart, it's called. And he does a bunch of traditional Christmas songs, and he has no voice left. It's absolutely hysterical. You will laugh your ass off find it and listen to the whole thing. I actually have a copy of it on CD, and it's Christmas time coming, so I put it on, and it's absolutely hysterical. Definitely, you will enjoy that. That'll give you hours of fun. And I think it's time to wrap this up. What do you think, folks? Huh? I think we've had a great show. What do you think?
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yes.
Is everybody ready for dinner? I know. So it's 4:45 where you are, right, Brad?
It's 4:45. That is correct.
4:45. So you're getting ready for dinner. So what's on the menu for tonight?
You know what? My best friend since we were 7 years old is staying with us from Miami Beach, and he's the chef. He's actually a chef too. Whatever he makes is good. I don't know what he's making tonight, but whatever it is, it's going to be delicious.
That is a
good for you.
lifelong friendship. Wow.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Wow.
it is.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Ray, you got any friends left from that age?
No, you're the only person I know from that far back, Bill. You're it. You're it.
Brother? Who's older?
Say what?
Who's older between the two?
I
of you?
am. I am. Ray is. I'm older.
Yeah.
I got Bill by 5 years.
Yep.
And
I'm 5 years older than you, Brad. So there we
Okay.
go.
Yeah. And we have a sister who's gotten a little wacky over the last few years.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and we really won't mention her name, but
No.
Okay. Well, let me ask you let me ask you a quick question, both of you gentlemen, since we did talk about
Shoot,
boxing.
yeah.
Who's your favorite fighter?
Yeah.
Both of you. Who's your favorite fighter?
Oh, it's only going to be for me. It's going to be growing up. It was as I was growing up. It's probably going to be Ali because I was at an age where I saw all those fights in the 70s, and that's what I kind of remember. And that was right where that was the most impressionable to me. And I guess I liked his personality. It was it was it was the way it was. And for me it was Ali. And I found myself, not that I didn't like boxing in the 80s, but I just didn't follow it as much as I sort of followed it in the 70s.
Okay.
How about you, Ray?
Oh yeah, well, my first memory of watching any boxer fight at all was Ali.
Okay.
I remember he was on TV at least once a month. Channel 7, Wide World of Sports, and they put everybody in front of him. And I think you were drawn to Ali, like Billy said, his personality. He was just magnetic, and he loved the sport, and he gave the sport legitimacy. And it's funny for a guy who was nonviolent and really didn't even want to serve. He sure beat the hell out of a lot of people. So, so there was that.
Yeah, that's true. And something, a talking point on that real quick. He gave up. He didn't go, and they stripped him of his belt, and they stripped him of his livelihood. But he came back and he fought Jerry Corey, who you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
He did it because of his religious beliefs. So he gave up everything. Trump was a 5 draft deferment. His daddy paid, where it was first it was school, then it was bone spurs. And if you ask him where the bone spurs are, which is a pretty painful thing to have, he can't tell you where the bone spurs are. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that didn't go to the Vietnam War. And to be honest with you, we had no business there, okay? But you still respect people that got drafted and you don't spit on them. I didn't agree how troops were treated. And I was very young when they came back, and some of them came back before I was born, how they were treated when they came back to this country by protesters.
Exactly.
You could protest the war, but you don't spit on the troops. There's a big difference. You can protest the war, but not that you don't treat the troops who were hit with Agent Orange or became dope addicts or never made it back or whatever. That's not right.
Yeah.
Well
That's
said.
not right.
Well said.
No, we agree.
And you have a guy who campaigned and he said, think about this. I leave this last talking point about the military. You had a guy that said, we don't win anymore. That was one of the things he said during the campaign. How insulting is that? Even look, if he would have said, I'm going to get the military the best of the best because we're hurt, they need better this, they need better uniforms, tanks, something. Most politicians say that. This guy comes along who never served and he says, we don't win anymore. Well, we had troops in Afghanistan. We had troops in harm's way. So what does that do for their morale? But nobody talks about these things. Sure. Nobody says anything when he says it. That's horrible to the troops that are downrange fighting. Yeah. You don't say that. Coming from the same guy that said, let's not forget this famous quote, I know more than the generals.
Yeah. And what's got to really hurt is this is the commander in chief.
Commander in
He's
chief.
the ultimate commander for everybody serving, and he says that's a slap
Yeah.
in the face.
Yeah, well, he saluted a helicopter. Remember when he came back after COVID and he walked up the stairs like, but they call him Cheeto or Orange Mussolini or whatever they nickname they got.
Yeah, right,
And
right.
he walks up and he's orange as can be. I mean, he's like bronze orange. And he rips the mask off because, let's not wear a mask early on and set that, why should I set the example? I'm just the president. And he salutes the helicopter. Well, I was in for, like I said, 20 years, 28 days. We don't salute helicopters. That's not what we salute. And we don't salute, which there's a picture of it. You can look it up. He saluted a communist North Korean officer. He saluted him too. We don't salute communist people. We don't do that.
Yeah.
But that was Trump. That was Trump.
Yeah.
But Joe, this was great. To lay down on the couch and do an hour and a half and get it out, this is wonderful.
And you didn't have to pay for it.
I know. And I'm waiting for a bill. Like I said, we need to analyze the sequel.
Nah, we appreciate you very much coming on the show. We really
Brad,
do.
this was a big pleasure.
Yeah, this was a pleasure. This was great. And obviously we follow each other on Twitter, so we'll be seeing you there. And
my Twitter handle.
we wish you well in in this new thing that you're taking on, and we look forward to follow. And I've subscribed to your show, so I'm going to be watching some of the guests that you get, and hopefully we can help each other out in the future. So again,
absolutely.
Brad,
and one more thing, I forgot to say it. My publicist will get mad at me. Twitter handle is @BadBradRSR is my Twitter handle. That's my only social media platform.
All right. I hope everybody out there got it for our 5 listeners. And
I like your 5 listeners. I wish we could get comments.
Yeah.
Same here.
This is, we're slowly getting a following. We're only on our 12th show. We've only been doing this for 12 episodes. And, but word gets around, and we hope we're doing something that making people laugh. And again, like I said, it's a labor of love. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show. We've really enjoyed having you. And we'll see you next time. Hopefully, maybe we can do this again. Maybe see what happens 6 months. Something changes. We can get on the show again with you and find out what's happening in your life
and follow up. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. And don't ever think that your humor. You always hear me say about moving humanity forward. Humor is such an important thing to deal with a lot of what we're dealing with in this country, for people not to lose their sanity. And so through your guys' humor, because I've listened to a couple of your shows, and you're moving humanity forward. And I thank both of you for doing that as well.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That means a lot from you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. This has been our interview with Brad Berkwitt. We're signing off and saying, see you on the next show. You're listening to Pull Yourself to Pieces,
the podcast that finds the humor from inside and out.
With your host, Ray.
And Bill. Catch a brand new episode every Wednesday.
Catch? What? Like you're fishing? Like you throw your hook out there? Is that what you mean? Like,
no, you don't. You throw your rod.
Oh, it's not like catching fish.
No, it's like catching flies.
Wait, are we talking baseball?
Or fly fishing.
Well, what frogs do.
What frogs do?
Catch flies.
Yeah, maybe. Please check out our website, pullyourselftopieces.podbean.com, and subscribe to the show in Google and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, TuneIn Radio, or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode.
And if you enjoy our show, don't forget to give us a high rating.
And remember to tell your friends about the show.
We'll see you next time.
Well, how can they see us? There's no cameras. It's kind of like radio.
It's a figure of speech.
A figure? What figure?
Yeah. A figure.
What does a figure have to do with it?
It's a figure it out.
Wait. Figure it out? Huh?
Thanks for listening to our show, and thank you to freesounds.org and Gottlieb, Audio Mirage, Plasterbrain, Cognito Perceptu, FK Prod, Mirage Chaser, Shadow Wisp, D-Boss, Viku Seru, Intra Environmental Sound Project, Julian Nicholas, Carmelo Mike, G Kill Hour, 140178 Sound, CMU Sound Design, Alan Mchi, Der Super Anton, Eric H2000, Bulbastray, FK Phantom, Ultra Dust, Ada Records, Stuart Colborn, Debroid, Cubidup, GJ, Syntax Seed, Inspector J, Astounded, Madge 061785, Just Invoke, Short Record, Lorenzo Sue, and I'm Mackenzie. CreativeCommons.org/licenses/by/3.0/legal code.